Okay, let's do it. Like we're gonna get into this. So let's hum it together. I'll hum after you. What is the one unexpected thing that podcast has taught you about yourself?
Uh, I think after 15 years in advertising, it's given me a creative outlet and a professional outlet to grow in when I felt like I had kind of reached the limits of where I could go in advertising. This really is pillow talk. This is like relatively emotionally challenging questions for a conversation about podcasting.
Sometimes I even like watch. I'm like, yo, are you that guy? Like, did you just say that?
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty. It's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
So
What you
yes,
say
I
and how
agree.
you say it, I can come up on the mic and totally change the whole tenor of this conversation.
Jonathan, you know,
Jason.
while prepping for this interview, I do this ritual. I will like wipe down my desk, I play loud music, and funny enough, I'm actually thinking about you. And
Okay.
it sounds weird, right?
This is boring. So far, you're cleaning and thinking about me. I can handle that. Let's not go too
Oh,
far.
yeah,
Okay.
too far, too far. And it's just something I've started to pick up. And I start an hour before podcast. I really try and like zone in, have a
Okay.
little meal, play my loud music. And I was thinking, you're a avid podcaster. Do you have a ritual before doing a podcast?
Yeah. I really admire that you take that much time to prepare beforehand. Because carving out any kind of time for something that is not, let's say, generating a thing is difficult. So well done. I give myself 5 minutes beforehand to make sure all the tech is working, and then I hum Misty Mountains from The Hobbit. So I did a little bit of training in voice acting earlier in my life when I thought that might be a thing. And the best way to warm up your voice for something is humming. So both kind of like opening up and also going from or even up to a nasal hum. And Misty Mountain is the song I've been singing to my kid for like 4 or 5 years now, every night. So it's just the one I know the best. But it's also got a lot of range. And so my prep is basically just getting my voice ready. And other than that,
Cool.
psychologically, not too much.
Okay, let's do it. Like we're gonna get into this. So let's hum it together. I'll hum after you.
If we could try it in harmony, that'd be great. Okay.
Uh,
Like with your sexy, smooth jazz late night radio voice. That's the it's, you'll actually see an incredible improvement between just recording cold and warming up.
Wow. Okay, I like that. I might add that to my repertoire or my routine
You listen to
because
the
that
music
is
anyway, just
actually
hum along.
exactly. Let's paint the picture. Who are you? And what I mean by that, like you already gave me insight to sort of the individual you are in terms of like, I think you enjoy music, you've got kids. Like I already said, you're a podcaster. But if you were an artist and you had like 5 colors and each colors represents the deeper Jonathan, what would those colors be and what they represent? And you've got 5 colors.
Wow. Okay. Are we talking like literal color words here, like ochre and all that vibe?
Any, like purple,
Okay. Okay.
because
Cool. Cool.
you know what I mean? Go for it. I'd
Okay.
love to
Okay.
know.
So, red, because I'm into things that are bright and interesting. I think that's a career spent in advertising and trying to craft things that stand out from the noise.
Hmm.
Um, green, because I am, and I think that's pretty, you're going to hear green and blue, the two most common colors for men here. But green, because I love the forests. And I don't know if you've heard of Japanese forest bathing, which is just their fancy word for spending time in forests to calm your mind and create stillness and all that stuff. Um, so I do like to kind of get away on that way. I'll say blue because I live next to the ocean. I live in Melkbosstrand outside Cape Town, and every day I go for a walk on the beach. And I've got two more here. So I'm going to go with neon, man, like neon yellow, like cyberpunk pink and yellow. Let's go with those. Also, just about bright colors, I suppose. But I do have like that retro 80s vibe. I've always wanted to have this room full of, I mean, I've got a plasma globe over here. I used to have a lava lamp, but it broke. I've got an on-air sign there that glows red, and I actually just want my room to be like UV lights and those things that show constellations of stars on your roof. Like that would be cool. And yet, I understand not cool at the same time. I'm very much a writer and very much not an art director.
Wow. That is crazy. That is, but I love it. The reason I asked that question is when I first met you, I think it was like maybe 2, 3 months ago, because we're both part of the Lacquer network.
Hmm.
Just the way you rocked up, like full of color, both visually and just how you speak. And I've asked this question before. You answered it so well, and I learned a lot about you. But I'm even more interested. Would you say those colors evolved over time, or as a youngster, let's talk about Jonathan at 18, as a teenager, were those colors still the same?
Definitely evolved. I wouldn't have been brave enough to dress like this when I was a youngster. I was, you know, standard kind of, school bullying and everything that we all grow up with. And I went through a goth
Yeah.
phase, not a heavy goth phase, but like a Metallica t shirt, black phase. If you asked me this when I was 19, I would have been like black, white, and nothing in between kind of thing. So
Mm,
embracing color and has been an evolution, I'd say. But yeah, younger John would probably still have said green, black, and white.
okay. Yeah, I went through this weird phase when I first started my first business in 2019. Because I was watching Stephen Bartlett, the
Yep.
podcaster, and he wears all black. And then, the tech bros also
Mm-hmm.
black t-shirts.
Mm.
And yes, I liked the utility because I read about almost, I think it was Steve Jobs or something like that. They just like the utility around decision making and being like,
Yeah.
cool,
Lack of
black
mental load.
t-shirts. Yes, right. And I went through this whole phase for like 3 solid years, only wearing black.
Mm.
And it actually, like, my friends were like, dude, yeah, Jason's gonna be in black. And then I I actually discounted a lot of things in my life because I love color. I'm very similar to you. So
Mm.
I was just like, why am I doing this? And the utility actually is not that bad for someone just living a decent, ambitious life versus like a Steve Jobs who's like, trying to build the next $1 billion company. So it was an interesting journey, but I really do think just having color on and actually making that conscious decision of wearing something that makes you feel good and like presentable is just also part of your story.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that you went through that punk phase, but I went through it like through trying to emulate these heroes, these business heroes that
Sure.
are out there.
Did
But
Did you
I
go
just
through a
found
hoodie
out
phase?
like
Where you used did you go through a tech hoodie phase?
no. So I went through a hoodie phase for gym because I
Okay.
really enjoy fitness. And then
Right.
there was like the fitness bros. It's like, yeah, let's not try and
Focus,
look like
bro.
we're
Just like
trying.
block out the
Yeah,
world.
yeah, like block out the world. Like
Headphones on.
we always training. Yeah, yeah. I went through one of those phases too. But yeah, I took a look at your profile, right? LinkedIn,
Hmm.
um, LinkedIn, the new Tinder, and I was gonna swipe right, but I was just like, no ways, because this guy's won so many awards. But like you're like an awards winning genius, like the Lories. Like
Oh,
I
no,
think
no.
yes.
Thank you, but no.
What do you mean no? What do you mean
I mean,
no?
I mean, in the world of copywriting, I have a modest collection of mid-range awards. I'm not a Cannes Gold winner or anything like that. I work with geniuses, but I am like on a purely objective scale, I'm not a big award winner in the world of copywriting. Just so you know, that's a fact. That's not
Okay.
like
Okay.
That's not me being self-deprecating. You
Okay.
should see my art director that I work with. You have to scroll on his web page to see his awards, right? Like
Fair,
mine is
fair.
all fits very nicely in a little half page.
Okay. But I have to commend you. Like honestly, I think there's more than like 10 on here, right? And what are those experiences like? I'm keen to understand like winning the lorries. What's the process of actually going through? being able to be a candidate, and just that world.
Oh, it's a nightmare. It's gotten a lot worse than it used to be, but back when I was in advertising, it was the game of awards hadn't yet fully developed to where it is today, where case study video is as well produced as the ad that it's supporting, right? It used to be you have to print and spray mount your artwork on foam core and courier that to the judges, and they would all put that out on tables and look at it. And when it comes to radio, you would supply them with the stuff and they would listen to it. And it was still an expensive exercise then, but now, advertising awards are there to make money. So it's expensive. It's a very detailed process. There's a lot more about results than it used to be about here's a creative idea. And now it's about, okay,
Mhm.
cool. What were the KPIs? Did you hit them? What was the budget? How much ROI did you make? What was the impressions? All that stuff. It's like very technical. But at the same time, a big game of like shuffle the ball under the cup kind of thing. So, and you have to make these professionally made case study videos, spending huge budgets to do so. And in the end, it's still very much a case of like, well, who's judging it? That's really what's going to make the difference. So, yeah, so the awards is a nightmare. So when we ran our South African podcasting awards, I brought some of that, transferred some of that trauma into the podcast awards, and tried to minimize that kind of side of stuff. But yeah, every industry eventually attracts awards, and it gets more and more complicated and top heavy as you go along.
Yeah. Okay. That's a nice segue to what we want to be speaking about today. Podcasting, the world of podcasting. I started my podcast in actually
2023.
uh, 2023, and it was a idea that I actually wanted to go and do all my podcasts in person, and
Mm,
I fell on my face because the energy that needed to go in, the prep. So I actually got to like 4 episodes, and then I just went cold turkey, and I just like, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to do this? And I stopped for about a solid 6 to 8 months.
right.
People were like, dude, you started this thing, like what's happening? And it was those people actually that were like, interestingly, true fans, and got me to start again earlier this year. And now I'm actually on episode 13. I'd like to ask you, what was your very, very, very first memory when it comes to podcasting, either listening or creating?
I think my introduction to podcasting came through Tim Ferriss, which would be standard for quite a lot of people because his show was early and very big, and to this day remains very big, but in a much more Steve Bartlett's, Trevor Noah world. It's a much more busy world. So that's when I first got exposed to it. And based on that, my first show was called The Resource Cast. I was already kind of trying to think strategically because there's a Facebook group in South Africa run by the amazing Tessa Kleinfeld. It's called The Resource, and it's a freelance job board essentially for South African creatives. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, like, I don't want to start a podcast where there's just I don't know who the audience is, just anyone. So I went to her and said, I'll start a podcast for your community, which we know has got 16,000 people in it. And let's try and turn some of them into listeners, and maybe it ends up being a revenue stream for the group, and or whatever it might be. So I was interviewing creative freelancers, and it was poorly produced. But it had panache. It had get up and go grittiness. It was mostly in person until the pandemic hits, and then that kind of like wrecked everything. And that was about 2019. But yeah, every podcast I've now done, I think I've experimented in almost every format of podcasting, and every every show I make teaches me more about those different formats and the whole thing mixed together. But yeah, it was a good experience. But I am
Mm.
embarrassed by the sound quality now.
uh, Many people start podcasts for so many reasons, and I think you highlighted the word strategy. So you
Mm,
you, you started out of strategy. I'm going to be honest. I think I started a combination of strategy and curiosity, because
mm,
my podcast is all just the idea. Like I get to sit in front of like smart people like you and ask questions that I'm asking myself.
right.
But the strategy is also twofold, where it's actually so easy to get in front of someone if you just put, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? So I'm actually
Yep.
building like a black book because I also enjoy business, you know?
Yep.
So that's my angle. It's like both networking and connection and building relationships, but at the same time, filling my bucket of curiosity of just wanting to know more.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can jump in there, what it
Mm,
sounds like you're doing right is that what are the KPIs for podcasting? For a lot of people, it's like build a big audience or monetize it somehow. But the ancillary KPIs of network knowledge, because your curiosity is leading you to people, and I'll exclude myself, like I've seen some of the professionals you've talked to. So you've learned a lot, you've connected with them, you have maybe gotten, some business out of some of them. And those are key. And then never mind about we need 10,000 listens and downloads a week and all that kind of thing. Like it's a great reward just to be able to talk to interesting people. And as you say, um, it's easier to get people to talk on your podcast. And for me, as someone who's this is I'm not a guest like that often, but when I am a guest, it helps me distill my thinking. So I really appreciate it. I'm getting a huge benefit out of this too.
brilliant.
I mean, look at these
Jonathan,
notes based on your questions.
uh, Jonathan, lay me up. What are you doing in the podcasting world? Do you run an agency? Do you just do this for free? What are you
Both.
doing in the podcast world?
Both. So I produce branded podcasts through my company, which is called Ping. And when I say company, I mean I have a logo and it's just me. So essentially, I'm kind of like a freelance podcast producer. So I make branded shows for clients, I make shows for myself, and then I'm the managing director of the South African Podcasters Guild. There are two other directors, and that is a non-profit industry organization for podcasters that we created in 2023, and that's where I spend probably around 30% of my time for free, just trying to grow the industry in South Africa. So that's where I spend most of my time, either making shows or trying to build the industry. And then copywriting is the other 30% of the time that I do for kind of marketing strategy clients and stuff.
Yeah. How long have you been doing podcasting?
The first show was in 2019, so I guess 6 years.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then in that time, I think out of my own shows, I've made about 5 or 6 shows. I make about one a year, and then for clients, probably around 10 to 15 to 20. I haven't really counted, but yeah, that's that's how many I've made.
So this idea of like shows versus like podcast series, like, what do you mean you've done different shows? What is that like? I'm actually confused because I have a podcast and I wouldn't call my podcast a show because my strategy is I would love this podcast to die with me. Like, it's professional pillow talk with Jason Luboyera.
Yeah,
Maybe it evolves, but
yeah.
like I wouldn't have called it a show because like you seem like you're starting these things like popcorn.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So I admire people who can do a single show for years. The Great Equalizer about parenting. There's people who do a podcast about pets and veterinary care and all that for years and years. And it's incredibly impressive, but I have a shorter attention span than that. So I tend to, as you do, follow my curiosity. And I do, as an advertising person, tend to go with what's going to work. Right. So I did a show called South African Expats, which is interviewing people who have moved overseas about how they got there, what it's like on the other side, what are their struggles, what's the best thing, all that kind of thing. And that was during that period where we were having a brain drain in South Africa and people were moving overseas. And then the next year, that actually ran for 2 years. And then after that, I moved on to Off the Grid in South Africa, which is a show about uh, during kind of like the height of load shedding, although strategically it was a bit late. It was about getting onto solar energy and installing it in your house and the alternatives to Escom and all that. Um, yeah, so I think of podcasts as shows because they're not just there for me. They need to provide value for the listener. So like to think I like to think about it as a show because I want to entertain, inform, and educate, and create community and all that kind of thing. It can't just be me going, "Hey, I really want to talk to this guy today, and we're going to do that for 45 minutes, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't." Like, and I know that's not what you're doing as well. You're also trying to tease out like, you know, great information and wisdom and all that kind of stuff. But I like to think about what does the audience want to hear.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, that's a great take. I I'll be honest. There's a combination of me being. It's a selfish. My podcast is very selfish. It's for me. So like, there is this part of me being like, hey, listen, Jonathan, I think you're just a super cool guy. I'd love to just have a back and forth with you. But the strategy lies in, I do believe the questions I'm asking myself, this tribe that I'm building will
Hmm.
also appreciate me being vulnerable about my curiosity, and they will in some way relate, right?
Yeah.
Because of how we share. So
Yeah.
that like, it's not just, yeah, let's just go off and like rant. Like, there's a bunch of podcasts that guys are just like, yo, bro, let's like, yo, oh,
Let's just hang
just
for 2 hours
yeah,
and film it.
let's
What are
just
you
hang
doing?
it and just talk smack. Like,
Yeah.
no. There is okay. There's definitely that strategy. Okay,
There's
and
two schools of thought that are actually only slightly
mm,
different. What you're talking about is I want to make the thing that I would love to listen to, and
yeah,
then inevitably other people would love it. And then my version, because I have this like need to be liked, is what would people love to hear and that I'm also interested in. So it's just like very slightly different lenses on it.
true. So then this is a process of distilling, and I'm also like, wow, you're challenging me in a way, being like, am I that guy? What is the one unexpected thing that podcast has taught you about yourself? Not just professionally, like personally.
Uh, I think I think after 15 years in advertising, it's given me a creative outlet and a professional outlet to grow in when I felt like I had kind of reached the limits of where I could go in advertising. I had to get out of the machine. I quit as a paid employee and I became a freelancer, and I'm still happy to do that. But every time I go back to agencies to do contracts, I am reminded as to I really don't want to be in that situation. I want to kind of control my own time and work from home, and podcasting professionally has given me that opportunity because all those things align. A lot of interviews are remote now. I can do it from my office. Um, but every client show, every personal show I make is a creative project. And I guess if there's one thing that I want from my life, it's for tomorrow not to be the same as today forever.
Mm,
Like I like change and new ideas, to my detriment to some kind, in some ways. So yeah, and it's taught me that I can learn a new skill as an old dog. I was 40 when I started this, or 39, 40, and it's an interesting combination of learning a new thing while also having the age and maybe the wisdom to be able to build the SAPG and bring together a community of other people as well.
wow, brilliant, brilliant. I'm only going to come back to that question because you did highlight this idea of wanting to be liked, you
Mm.
know, with the creative outlet in the advertising space. Were you not liked?
I think I've always been, you know, I'm a fairly amenable chap, and people in general know. Very few people tell me they don't like me, but I think it's as a creative person, you want what you make to find an audience, to find fans, to find people who love what it is you make. Like I could never be a Van Gogh painting for most of my life and never selling any of them. Uh,
Mm,
it's it's yeah, I think it's a drive to my kind of like creative drive is I would like to enable other people to be more creative. I've always felt like I was very much a fan of Roald Dahl and writers and creatives who are all about like trying to retain their creative spirit when you grow older, because inevitably life can kind of squeeze it out of you. And I'm certainly not perfect at maintaining that naivety and that kind of glint in your eye. I have been tempered by time, but yeah, my thing is just like, and I think so, and it comes from my mom. I've got to be honest. If I go out and do like an event or a presentation or a workshop or something, and I go and tell her about it, her first question will be, "But did they like you?" So that's just like been
really
bred into me, man. Like, that's like, yeah.
fair. I wrote a post on LinkedIn today, something on the lines, there's some people who breathe confidence,
Hmm.
and the no, yeah, breathe confidence, and then I went on and saying like the exhale of that individual is the ability to allow other people to level up to performance that they could never have dreamed of. it's those type of A players. And I like what you said, where it's like you want to, you know, remain creative so that
Mm,
other people can unlock their creativity.
mm.
And I've never heard someone actually say that because, yeah, this whole thing, even accountants are creative, everybody's creative. But no
We all
one's
start
saying, I
creative.
want to be, yeah, no one's saying, I want to be creative so that other people are creative. They want to be creative because that's the new thing. Like everyone's needs to be, so I can have that label.
Right.
Um,
It's yeah, like
that's,
grit and intelligence. It's one of the, I guess, virtue words is I'm a creative person. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, for those who are interested, I've got a show called Visualize This, which is a mind yoga. Essentially, it's audio visualizations, and the whole idea was for anyone who wants to start their day by expanding their imagination. It's kind of like, I guess, meditative stuff, but it's imagine yourself jumping through the clouds, and then there's a cloud pirate ship, and all kinds of nonsense happens. But it's just the idea is to try and stretch your imagination before you get to work, or whatever it might be. So that's probably the best example of me trying to do that.
Mm. What are some of the ways you are working on yourself so that you can remain creative, so that you don't become blissfully naive, but like openly naive, like in a safe manner?
Yeah,
Like what are
purposefully
some of the
naive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What are you doing
Uh,
in your world?
I've the way I've built my career is just that just leads to it naturally. Working in advertising is naturally problem solving. These days, a little bit more problem solving than it is creativity. But podcasting is more creative and also more problem solving. So I think that it's just a natural part of my day now. Is that every day I'm presented with how are we going to communicate this? How are we going to strategize that? What is this going to look like in such a way that it grabs attention? So I don't really have to try, but having a kid helps too because we do a lot of creative play and all of that. He's a machine, but so yeah, it's just built into my life now.
Thanks for sharing that, John. You know why? It's because 8 hours of our day is work. Like I think
Mm,
there's a post like 60 or the top a good quartile of your life is spent working. So if you can design your life so that some of the key goals that you want to achieve is achieved at the workspace is a interesting take v- compared to like fighting for this unachievable work life balance thing that we all want.
yeah, or trying to find space for it in the downtime and all that. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Versus like there is so much work you can do. Like you don't have to be an accountant. You don't you could there's so many ways you can make $1 million if that's the goal. Versus there's so many ways you can also create impact without the money, but you
Mm,
don't actually have to give up your creative outlet for work.
yeah.
Um
Although some
yeah, and
people, I've
that's
got a
me just
friend who
actually
was
thinking,
I got a friend who was an accountant. He was good at accountancy in school. He studied to be an accountant. He's an accountant. And I'm like super jealous of people who are just, this is my career and I can see it coming and all I have to do is follow this trail. Whereas I've spent a lot of my life going like, oh, what I'm going to do, or how am I going to change and what's the next project and the freelance roller coaster and all that kind of thing. Like there's people who do know get certainly it's a lot less mental load on people who are just like, cool, I'm a doctor, I do doctoring. No, that's fine.
you plucking at my heartstrings. Mate, I'm just like you. I'm going through a transition right now,
Mm,
career wise. I love the thrill, but of course, there's this mental load that you do need to know that with change comes the capacity to learn more and
mm,
unlearn,
mm,
right? And that's a massive mental load because maybe it's similar to me where you want to like produce amazing value. You want to overperform, under promise.
hmm.
Now you've under promised and you're also not getting anywhere because you need to learn. So now you're under this pressure. You're like, oh my goodness.
Well, at least you're meeting
I
expectations.
okay, yeah, true. But
It's like,
you
I'm gonna
always want to
suck, and
like,
then you suck. Nice.
yeah, there's so many people out there, I'm sure, that can resonate. And I think there's more people that will be like, I thought that this path was for me. I've been on it for 10 years, but I actually don't know how to change,
Yeah,
right?
that is a
Because
terrifying proposition.
really terrifying. Um, I'm reading a book that you should probably read. It's called Range by David Epstein, where it talks about in a world of hyper specialization, the generalists win. I'll just
Okay.
leave it at that. Maybe if you do read it,
Range by
it's such a
David
good book.
Epstein. Okay, I'll have
Yeah,
a look, dude. Absolutely.
David Epstein. So, but yeah, we digressed a bit, and it was cool. We were on the dirt road with our like little
This
Hiluxes.
really is pillow
Let's
talk.
get
This is like relatively emotionally challenging questions for a conversation about podcasting.
let's get back onto the highway. Let's chat your agency. You come across a lot of individuals who want to build a podcast. I'm building a podcast. What are the two or three misconceptions that people have about what it takes to build a successful podcast
Hmm.
or show?
Well, I think like anything, everyone has a misconception that something is going to be easy and be quick, and that's not true of literally anything you try to build. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes an accumulation of knowledge. And if you are a
Mhm.
client, then you can either outsource those problems to someone like me or you can learn it yourself. And podcasting is not, you know, like software development. It's easier, I would say, than many other technical disciplines. There's a lot of information out there. You can learn the whole thing top to bottom, like I did, like you're doing from podcasts themselves or YouTube or whatever it is you want. Um, so there's that. I think there's probably a misconception about how fast you can grow your audience and the tools with which you can do it. A lot of the literature around podcasting talks about creating audiograms and putting them on every channel and starting a newsletter and having the website linked. And as long as you've got all of these organic bits plugged together, you will get growth. But I don't think that's true, especially not if your show is non specific and non niche. If it's just, hey, we're two people talking about, movies, then unless you are amazing at dissecting movies or you have a very specific point of view or you can get the best guests or you have a built-in. I'd actually posted on LinkedIn a couple days ago, if you have the three things that you need to start a podcast that's going to grow beyond really really slowly is like an audience you already have. Like celebrities have a built-in audience, that's why so many celebrities have podcasts. If you are in any way have a following already, cool, you can convert some of those to podcast listeners. If you have a
Mm,
specific niche audience that you know how to get in front of, like you want to create a parenting podcast and you know someone who has a Facebook forum with 10,000 parents on it, then cool, go for it. Or you got money, because organic growth is incredibly slow. And this is a drum that I'm starting to beat on, and people are not going to hear the end of it for me right now, is that social media, which is the main channels that people try to spread their podcasts, is just paid for play now. Like Meta and Google do not want to show people your stuff if you're not paying them. It is with great reluctance that they give you any kind of exposure. So, and as much as I dislike those companies, the position I'm coming to is that considering the hours of work you put into a podcast, the equipment you buy, the guests you talk to, the mental load that is required, you should build in a paid media budget. And I'm still learning now, discovering the edges. We're trying to figure out exactly what works. Like my new show is an experiment in paid media essentially, and it's working very well. But I'm just boosting Instagram posts. That's it. And there's a whole bunch of other things that I could be doing, and I could be spreading that budget out in more intelligent ways. And I'm learning as well. But yeah, I would say that in traditional advertising, the production budget is 10% of the budget, and 90% of it is media. That's a thing that podcast clients don't do. They just think, oh, I'm going to make it and then it'll spread, which is not the way it works. Unless you have a type of show that, for example, a thought leadership show, you're posting on your LinkedIn, you've got a network already, those are your targets, or your target is directly the people you're trying to talk to, then that's fine. But if you're trying to build an audience, then you need you need a market you have, a market you can access, or money to get to a market.
sure.
Sorry, that was a long answer.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer because okay, this is where there's two things I not fully agree with. Not that I disagree, but there's some maybe further explanation I need. Where you mentioned podcasting is easier than like developing, like so let's say like coding and stuff like that. Where I'm like, okay, it's not easy just to express yourself or articulate something easily. I
Mm.
think it's hard. It's a hard skill to learn, right? The
I think it's a hard
podcasting
skill
itself,
to
like
what
what?
well,
Yeah, okay,
but it's
hard
easy to
skill
make a
to learn
bad
what?
podcast.
This is
Anyone
what
can
I'm
make a
saying.
bad
So like,
podcast today, whereas I can't code anything today. Like, I'm gonna need a week
I
to make
think
something bad.
you can with ChatGPT.
Well, with Sandbox and Chat, I've actually okay. I'll be honest. I have been playing around in Sandbox and React to create like a wireframe for a thing. Yes, now those tools exist, but
Mm,
they are relatively new, I think, compared to the tools available to podcasters for the last 5 years between Descript and GarageBand and Audacity and all that kind of thing. If you just told me, like, put
mm.
me in front of I don't even know if you're not using ChatGPT and Sandbox or something like I don't know, do you open a JSON window, a JavaScript terminal? I don't even know what they're called. But if you put me in front of it, I'd be like,
Mm.
no, I can't do anything.
Okay, true. But yeah, Garage is like quite intuitive. Like click
Mm,
here, click record, say something. Okay,
yeah.
from that perspective, I get you. But like I always say, like the soft skills of life, getting
Mm,
them right to make you money or at least
mm,
grab attention
mm.
is a lot harder than the hard skills, right? So
Yep. Yep.
even going down to like comparing, okay, I'm getting like maybe philosophical here, like, and maybe that also because I'm thinking religion, but I'm thinking a speaker versus like a doctor.
Right.
Who will gain more power? Even though this guy is saving lives or this woman is
Mm,
saving lives, but the person who can speak and tap into your emotions through words
hmm
somehow wins.
Yeah. I mean, that's all people like Hitler were, is a really good speaker. And,
Exactly.
you know, yeah, look, communication skills are key. They're just also very hard to quantify, which makes it the whole conversation about the AI revolution and soft skills and are they going to be a predominant power when all the hard skills are essentially kind of commoditized, where you can program through ChatGPT and you can, get analysis out of a database through ChatGPT. So is it the human skills that remain? One thing that I do like a quote I think that came from David Trott, who wrote a book called Predatory Thinking, and a few others. But the quote was, "Creativity is the last unfair advantage."
Hmm.
Because now, we've all got the tools. The knowledge is accessible to everyone. We've all got access to a free version of ChatGPT within economic, structures. But creativity is the only thing left that you have that's other people can't just learn.
Is the podcast business fueling your creativity?
Yeah, absolutely. Because as I get kind of better at it, my I mean, it's some of my shows are overtly creative, like Visualize This, Ozempic Diaries, which I'm making now. I'm doing a lot of kind of like sound effects and funny little jokes in it, and it's a creative piece which I enjoy. And then I've just finished 2 weeks from now is there's a Qantas podcast that I collaborated on with a guy called Spike Ballantyne, and I wrote this tour guide to Australia with him, and it's just the most fun, creative thing that I've done in years, and I'll can't wait for it to be released so I can start sharing it everywhere.
Mm. Outside of the creativity, and I think I agree with you, podcasting does fuel my creativity because it also challenges me to think, prep.
Mm,
It pushes me out of my comfort zone. It forces me to become a version of myself that sometimes I even like watch. I'm like, yo, are you that guy? Like, did you just say that?
yeah.
And I think that's the beauty. It's such a beautiful experience. It is like art. You have this blank canvas and you have to start throwing paint at this canvas, or like start stroking.
Mm.
And the harder you stroke, there is some type of feedback. The softer you
Yep.
stroke, when you don't stroke, there is some type of feedback. Um, so I was listening to this other podcast. They were like, your voice is an instrument, not a tool.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
your voice is an instrument, not a tool. A lot of people are like, yeah, use this tool that, God has given. It's not a tool. It's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
instrument, because inflections and this, jokes, sound effects, it's all part of the repertoire of what this tool can do for you.
Yeah.
So
What you
yes,
say
I
and how
agree.
you say it, I can come up on the mic and totally change the whole tenor of this conversation, Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Or you could be like, hey man, don't do that, because we
well,
need to not,
the American
you
version of
know.
podcasting, like, hey guys, welcome. It's Jason
Yes.
Luboyera, and we're talking about marketing. Yeah, no, I can't deal with that. That's my, my upbringing as white Cape Tonian, mother's Dutch, dad's German, is like I'm a monotone person, so I find that I have to
Mm,
focus on like adding rhythm and color and shade to the way I speak, and
yes.
often you'll find me just talking in a complete monotone all the time, using logic rather than emotion. And I'm a storyteller, so that's not good. Still learning.
But that's funny enough. That's what the podcast I was talking about spoke about,
Mm,
tonality and like the power of it,
mm,
and like the use of yeah, inflections, like you just did there. You were like like that is not a word, but people will be like, even if someone's listening, they could almost see you being like which means
yeah,
difficult, like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
awkward, like,
Totally.
now you've
And then
got it
the,
on wax,
the
like
trick in podcast editing is when to cut that or keep it, because if you cut it or you take it, because there's one side of the spectrum is just leave everything in, completely raw, no edits or mistakes in. And I was on the other side of that saying, no, no, I don't want to waste people's time. So I'm going to cut out breaths. I'm going to cut out every pause. It's just going to be a stream of information. And that was terrible. So now I fall somewhere closer to the natural style, but I will still remove ums and ahs if they can be isolated.
okay. And in that editing process, what's your take in terms of long form versus short form, right? And I'm asking because of attention span. Apparently, we've got an attention span of a goldfish or something like that. Is there space for long form? Does it still matter?
Yep, 100%. I think it's harder to do long form, and you better have something interesting to say. You have to justify long form. You either have to be talking to very smart people, or you have to be very smart or interesting yourself. So there's no inherent grace to long form. Shorter is better, like no longer than it has to be is the actual rule. But I also think that just trying to do, now I'm going to do an in-depth podcast in 5 minutes, like, unless it's built for a reason to be that, don't just try to make it shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Like podcast people, if it's interesting enough, they're there to listen to depth. So don't try and be TikTok or YouTube. Just um, let it be what it is. At the same time, just and then as I said, don't just be self-indulgent and yak for 3 hours. Just
Thank you for
watch your
sharing that,
stats,
because
and when people drop off, then you're done. Then that's when you got boring.
yes, thanks for sharing that, because like I wasn't too sure, and I'm on the mind of like, I would love for me and you to create a moment within the podcast that is valuable, and that's
Mm.
normally later on. So that's my skill, is trying to get the podcaster to feel comfortable, so we can have that professional naked conversation, because
Mm.
that's my strategy, because that's the value I have for my audience. Whether
Yeah.
that takes me 10 minutes and then it's within the 20 minutes, which I feel we actually hit quite early. I saw a
Yeah.
little tear there, and I was like, ooh, look at
Yeah, I was feeling
uh,
challenged there. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so
Pillow
that's,
talk
and so
requires foreplay.
we, yeah, but they say I've got skills, I don't need to. But yeah, so that's my strategy there. So thanks for sharing that, because it is, let's make it as long as it needs to be,
Mm.
versus this is a 5 minute thing. And I think there's so much out there in the podcast world which is like, ooh, we need these like short ones. They need to be impactful because people are going to be listening on the radio. People are so different. Like people are so
Mm.
different. So rather build your podcast to get to those 1,000 true fans versus 10,000 fake fans, right?
Yeah.
Because you started in the first year and you had these bite-sized stuff, built this big audience, and then they were like, "Ooh, that's cool. Now he's boring. Let's move on to the next one." If your podcast is like mine, I think, which is a long form, but a show has a total different strategy. So I'm actually so informed. Like I'm going round in circles because like shows versus long form, like long term podcasts, it's two different worlds actually.
Yeah, it's such a tough one, man. Like a 45-minute used to be kind of like a standard in-depth podcast interview. Now we're trending closer to 20 to 30 minutes. And there is a truth that it'll be harder to grow your audience if you've got longer episodes, because you're competing with Diary of a CEO and, Smartless and all those other shows, because it's time. And there are certain practical things like 20 minutes is a run on the beach, 20 minutes is a gym session, 30 minutes is a gym session, whatever it
Hmm.
might be. 45 minutes is a bike ride. So if you're talking about bike riding, then cool. So it's always this clash of strategy and creativity. But I think if you're creating something unique and has value, then again the problem is 1,000 true fans is enough, but finding those 1,000 true fans organically is very, very difficult. That's why
Yeah,
media budget.
yeah. What's the future of podcast, Jono? Podcasting,
uh
20
oh, hold on.
2030.
2030. That's okay. Do you mean in South Africa or worldwide? Because we are a couple of years behind.
South Africa first.
Right. So we have the advantage of being able to look at America and see what's coming. And to a certain degree, like an iceberg, avoid it. Because I would say the American podcast industry is very well developed. If you look at the Ambies, which are the awards just came out yesterday, mostly networks and big companies like Wondery were winning, right? They actually have an indie category, whereas we are mostly indies with a couple of branded podcasts network categories. So that's going to reverse, that's going to change over time as networks do get built and it becomes more professional and more money comes into it, and it just becomes a professional industry that will change over time. So with that 2-year lag, though, if we look at 2030 for South Africa, we'll catch up to where the rest of the world is. I mean, impossible to tell with you know it's just so far into the future, but mm, I think, yeah, I can't give you an answer on 2030, man. I can give you an answer on 2027, 26, maybe.
Okay.
you know
What is that answer?
it's going to be more and more video. It's going to be more and more
Mm-hmm.
of confusion as to what a podcast is, because even in the guild, we have people who are podcasters, but they don't have an audio feed. They're YouTubers essentially, but because they do an interview show, they identify as
Yeah.
podcasters, which makes it very hard
Hmm.
to categorize a award show. Let me tell you. Um, so video confusion will continue, but I think we will see VOD fading. Pod fading is when after the first 7 episodes, statistically, podcasters go, "Oh, okay, I'm not seeing results. I don't want to do it anymore," and they stop. And that's why there are something
Yes.
like 2-3 million podcasts out there, but only 400,000 of them are active. VOD
Yes.
fading will happen because the overheads for making video podcasts are just higher than audio. So you see people in South Africa now with studios and they have guests in and they've got equipment and cameras and all that, and they're making the stuff, but they're making just as much no money as audio podcasters are, but they're spending a lot more. And I feel like if they don't get those results, that they will eventually, or they will quickly go like, this is not sustainable, you know? Um, so I think we'll see that. And then think we will also see, as the industry becomes more professional, this is something we're going to be pushing at the Podcasters Guild. I haven't talked about this in a public forum. We literally had an advisory board meeting yesterday, but we're creating a system, a product for podcasters where they can essentially do it yourself paid media advertising, where they can upload their show artwork, the description of their show, what they want to achieve, what links they want to share. And then on our side, at first it's going to be a little bit jerry rigged together, but eventually it'll be a fully automated system where it'll take that and then go, okay, cool. Here's your budget. We're going to split it into Meta, to Google. It might eventually go into trailers being put into other podcasts, and we'll take care of that for you because I just had this realization that most people don't know how paid media advertising works, and let's just make it easier for them. So I think we'll see more
Wow.
of a move towards that.
Wow. Yeah. I need to introduce you to someone.
Okay,
Um,
keen.
yeah, that's a beautiful product. I want to sign up. I definitely want to sign up. Take my
I
money.
mean,
Take
wouldn't
my
you like to just take $500 and go, cool, here's my details, here's
Yeah,
$500, 20% commission for the guild to keep it running, 400 Rand out of that 500 is just going to go into ads for your show.
100%. I would do that for sure. And with so much automation out there, you know, paid ad specialists are also having a tough time because everything is just so, like auto bid, right?
Hmm.
You, I did a bit of paid media with another agency. Like she was saying, like, yes, you need, it's more the critical thinking of like how to place the ad and the copy and all
Hmm.
that type of stuff. But like auto bidding and things just like puts it out there and then you compete because of value and like if you've set it up correctly. So very
Exactly.
exciting. And
It's the
it's
plumbing,
very exciting.
It's like
Mm.
plugging
Mm.
Zapier into Google and Google into uh, Facebook Pixel and Google Analytics. And then, you have to like sticky tape this whole thing together. But then once it's
Mm.
there, well, I think devs will be laughing in their boots right now, going like, "No, you're going to keep
Mm.
fixing that thing for the rest of your life." That's what that's what
Mm.
happens. But if we can automate it, then it would be great, and it is
Mm.
possible. I
Mm.
hope.
Sure, Jono. This has been amazing. You last long, man. This is like this has been good. But I've got one more I've got one more question. And I want to play a little game with you.
Hmm.
If you had to personify one or two of your podcast shows, right? Bring the podcast to life. He or she. Like let's imagine one of those shows and they're knocking on the door right now, right?
Mm.
And they're about to come into the house
Mm.
and they're able to talk back to you. What do you think that podcast would say about you? And let me lay it up in terms of what they're saying.
Hmm.
What would they thank you for as one? And then
Hmm.
what would they call you out on?
Um, I think any one of my podcasts would call me out on leaving work unfinished. It'd be like, "You made me. Why are you not promoting me? Why aren't you doing the hard work of actually spreading the word?" Because as a creative person, I love the process of making and I hate the process. As a marketer, I hate marketing. I hate doing it for myself, sitting on my phone, putting together a reel and adding copy. And now I'm going to share it on stories and put a link in. Like, it makes me want to kill myself. So I'm bad at that. I think what it would thank me for is like, I think that between expats, Visualize This, Off the Grid, Ozempic Diaries, and I do often get this feedback from listeners as well. But like, I think I help people. I think they do help people. Those shows give people guidance. On Ozempic Diaries, we've got a WhatsApp group with about 50 plus people who are sharing their experience and giving each other support and helping each other through the plateaus and all that. And it's an amazing, actually, the variety of use cases for Ozempic. People who they need to have surgery and they're too obese and they need to lose weight, so they're using Ozempic to get down there, or someone who wants to use it for fasting for Ramadan. So it's, yeah, it's very interesting. And I would like to think that any of my podcasts would be like, "Hey, thanks for helping other people."
Sure. Johnny, you had a few notes there. And is there a
Yeah.
question I didn't ask you and you wish and love that I did?
Um, oh, yes. I've got one thought that I do want to share with you, which is
Mm.
when it again relates to KPIs, like what is the value of having a podcast, right? For someone like you,
Hmm.
for anyone. And there's a halo effect to having a podcast that doesn't require people to listen to it. If I go onto your LinkedIn and see that you have a podcast, I might never listen to it, but I know that you have one. So here's a dude who's creating something, he's interviewing people, he's learning, he's networked, he's connected. So without ever listening to your show, my estimation of who you are as a professional and a person has gone up. So that's the halo effect of having a podcast.
Love that. It's so true. And it's not only because I have a podcast. Before I had a podcast, I also thought that about other people.
Mm.
But there's a small caveat with that. You do fall into the group of, ooh, there's someone who's like the podcast bro, right?
Another white boy
Because
with
it's
the
like,
podcast.
yeah, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I don't know if you've seen those on Instagram. Like, come on my
Yes.
podcast. If you want to be on my
Yeah, yeah,
podcast,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Because it's like that's
Totally.
all people do after a call, or let's say you're having a proper coffee.
Mm.
The podcast person will be like, I think you should come on my podcast. Like, no, we should just maybe have another coffee and have a real conversation. So there is
That's
that
haters,
slight,
dude.
yeah,
That's
there is
just
that
haters.
slight, maybe that's my anxiety, but it's so true. Like, there is that halo effect. I like have people walk up to me, I don't even know you, they're like, whoa, professional pillow talk, oh, keep it up. So, and that, like, boosts my ego and things, but I also always know why I'm doing this thing. It's, yes,
Mm.
selfish for me, but I am going to build that tribe that, also, there could be this one thing that said on the podcast that actually makes you just go to the gym
Mm.
because you didn't want to, or
Yeah.
just say hello to your dad because you didn't. That's
Yeah.
it. Those small things when no one is looking, is what I'm really out there for. All
Dude,
right, Jonathan,
like
that was
if
amazing. Oh, yes,
just
go
uh
for it.
uh just a little intellectual exercise. If you just said to
Mm,
yourself, every week, I'm going to go to a coffee shop and talk to someone I don't know about their life and what they do and try and learn from them, and we're not going to record it, people would think that you were like amazing. They'd be like, that's so great. You're like learning, you're teaching yourself stuff, you're making connections. The fact that you do it in public and try to help other people learn from it while also obviously, raising your profile and all the cynical stuff, like, I don't think that really changes anything. It's just perception. And I think also podcasters are influencers. Like, your audience can be influenced by you. And this is something that a lot of podcasters struggle to understand, is that they are when they think like, how do I monetize? And it's like, just look at YouTubers. They've been doing it for years. Just do what they do. But we're the least annoying influencer. We're not
yes.
standing next to the Grand Canyon with a selfie stick getting in people's way, or you know, skydiving off the top of buildings and putting people in danger or whatever it might be. Like, podcasters
Yeah,
do it
Mr.
nice and
Beast.
quiet. Well, yeah, Mr. Well, I've a lot of like back and forth about Mr. Beast. I think he's objectively done good things. So
Yeah, no,
um,
100%.
I don't. I personally have a positive view of him without going down into the rabbit hole of learning everything about it.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's so strong. We don't want to finish. We don't want to finish. I have another thought here where there's this, and I'm going to give this, it's not even IP. I have this idea where professional pillow talk will become an events company where
Hmm.
when I travel around the world, I'll sort of hit somebody up because I've got some type of influence to say, hey, Jonathan, I'm coming to Cape Town. Would you want to do a podcast with me? I'll have my podcast stuff and we'll do it. Oh, no, no, no. Actually, I won't have my podcast stuff. I'll have my sound stuff. But then I would invite people who are sort of in my tribe to come to this like experience bar or whatever experience restaurant,
Hmm.
and it's not recorded. It's an exclusive in-person professional pillow talk, unfiltered, unrecorded.
That's brilliant.
That's
I
my
love it.
idea to monetize this thing, right? Because
Yeah.
I love traveling.
Hmm.
Two, there's this world of exclusivity and, like you said, like in the moment stuff. Like I think an unfair advantage is unrecorded.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
because everything is recorded as, like, an unfair advantage is I was there when he painted it.
Yeah. This is never happening
You don't need
again.
blockchain. It's never
Mm.
happening again. You don't need blockchain. You don't need anybody out to verify it besides the people who were there.
Yeah. Genius,
And
dude.
that's that I'm going for that. And like, cool, anybody could copy it, but I think where it comes down to is the execution of it. Because there's a lot of these ideas out there, like, this exclusivity, but it's the execution. And that's how, if you ever had to ask me how I would really monetize this thing, is through events.
Yeah. You get yourself a great guest. And I think through the Lecker Network, you'll have access to amazing guests. Go to London, you ask them, hey, like, you like cigar bars or cocktail bars, or what do we do? They give you a
Yeah.
thing, you go there, you invite other people, you charge them
Yeah.
whatever in pound, like £1 trillion in £30, let's say,
Yeah.
and you've got an event. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's going to be recording it
All
on
right.
their phone.
No. Or they're gonna have like some like Google glasses.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly, like
you
the
know,
Ray-Ban thing.
oh, oh my word.
If
All
that
right, Jonathan, I've got
happens, then you've succeeded.
mhm.
If someone's
True.
bootlegging
True.
your meetings, then you've succeeded.
True. Ah, I like your outlook. I like how you think about things. It's beautiful,
Hmm.
positive. I've got a tradition, Jonathan, where we play this game either or,
Right.
right? So there's about 6 categories. It's either this or that. And I always challenge my guests. Normally I say a minute. You're a creative. You seem sharp. I think you could do it in 25 seconds,
Okay.
right?
Well, we've talked long enough, so
And you,
let's do it.
yeah, and you can't pass. You have to say either
Sure.
one or the other.
Okay.
Cool. Are you ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. Food, sweet or savory?
Say sweet.
Travel, beach vacation or mountain adventure?
Mountain adventure.
Relationships, spontaneous date night out or planned getaway?
Spontaneous date night out.
Fitness, morning run or evening run?
Evening run.
Mindset, meditation or journaling? 2 seconds, come on.
Journaling.
Learning, podcasts or books? Oh,
Podcast.
we just missed it. No, we just missed it. Damn, just missed it. I would give you like about a second and a half
It was
more,
a sweet
but that
savory
was great.
thing, man. It
Yeah,
was a
it was
sweet
a sweet
savory.
savory. Like you.
I love
Why
them
did
both
you
so
stutter
much.
that? Do you love them
Well,
so
why?
much?
Because I'm on Ozempic right now, and I love sweet
Okay.
stuff, but I'm in a world of savory and low carb right now. So, you know,
Okay. So
I
you're learning.
my in my brain, I was like, "Savory, that's all you're eating right now." And then, like, Coke Zero is the only sweet thing I can have right now. But in my heart of hearts, I'm a sweet fiend, yeah.
All right. Jonathan, I think in closing, let us know the projects that are most pertinent in your world, and also let us know how we can get hold of you. And if you also have any closing words, please go ahead and share those.
Yeah, you can go to sapg.co.za to see what the South African Podcasters Guild is doing. If there are any podcasters in your audience, then please join us. The community is great. You can get hold of me for podcasting at Ping Productions is the name of the company, which is John at pingproductions.net. And that's yeah. I don't have any clever closing words, bro. Great interview. Thank you very much for having me, and I really enjoyed sharpening my thinking by in this conversation. Like it's been awesome.
I can resonate too, Jonathan. It was a great conversation. I do think, and I'm going to say it out loud, I think there's going to be a part two, because my podcast journey, my podcast muscle is going to get a little stronger. I would love to come back into the ring with you, whether it's in, the next 3 months, 6 months, in a year, because I really, really enjoyed this and I really appreciate your time. I'll leave the show
Awesome.
notes for everybody. And yeah, much love, Jonathan. Thanks so much, man.
Sweet. Thanks everyone.
Cheers.